at 11.
I meant to play that last week on St. Patty's Day, a little Irish, but I forgot. So you got it this week. Mr. Recinos, how are you?
Oh, we're doing great. It's a new week and we're ready to get it.
Yes, sir. Well, listen, how's the market feeling?
Listen, everyone's busy. People were busy. I was out, got to stop at a couple open houses, and it's been good.
Yep.
It's
So I agree, optimism. Yet I do want to make mention of two things. One, I think if you've been out there busy in the market, there might have felt a little lull over the last week to 2 weeks. It felt a little funky, if I'm being honest. And in conversations with a lot of the agents, they felt it was a little bit off maybe the last 2 weeks. And what I would make mention of in that is I believe that was a little bit of an effect of the news media. And what I mean by that is, in some of the conversation, this is a little foreshadowing of where we're going today, is a lot of conversations in the media about tariffs, around immigration. And I think it just shook the consumer mentality for a short period of time. I don't think it's going to last. I think it's dissipated. But I do think there was a little lull maybe over the last week or two that some people have made mention to me and felt. So I think if that was you, it was normal. I don't think it's long lived. I think it was short lived, and we're going forward. Second thing I want to make mention of, Manny, the what's the right term? Spring equinox or whatever it was that happened on the 21st. What's that thing? What's it called? Equinox? Manny, you're
sure.
supposed to be the expert.
I
All
don't keep
right.
up with that.
The From this moment in time until late summer is what we call the spring market, the selling season of the year. So proportionately, more real estate is sold from right now until late summer than any other time of the year. That doesn't mean the rest of the year doesn't sell, but the majority of real estate proportionately is sold right now until late summer. And I was remembering as we were getting ready for this call, when I was a team leader in Texas, and I had, honestly, it was the number one agent in the company at that time. I remember that he would double his marketing efforts specifically at this time of year. So, for instance, if he was selling or sending out one newsletter a month, he would send two by week, by monthly, or he would, if he was sending postcards, he would send double the postcards. We don't obviously do postcards as much these days, but maybe it's just a mention of it could be quite strategic to double your marketing efforts right now, considering this is that time of year when everything's picking up. And it's that time of year when the consumers are definitely thinking about real estate. And if you're posting once a week on social media, maybe you post twice a week. If you're sending one newsletter a month, maybe you send a mid month newsletter. It could be quite strategic for the next couple months, maybe next 90 days to double your marketing efforts because I think that return will be exponential. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, this is also lessons we should be writing down and keeping for when you're planning for next year, right? Because this is part of that planning, and y'all are with KW. We do this, our planning early in the towards the end of the year. This is what hopefully we already have in our marketing strategies for the year. But if you don't, listen to those that are implementing it. See where the dollars are going to make you make more sense. Yeah,
Make the most sense, right?
most sense.
All
Yeah,
right, let's jump in. All right. Well, we got a lot to talk about today,
you do.
but let's hit the numbers real quick. So, Fulton County, 1,117 new active listings came on the market in the last 7 days. If you look at the last 3 weeks, more than 1,000 new listings came on the market every single week. That is a big number in Fulton County. And inventory is popping. And what I think, Manny, is, we went through a couple years where people were not selling their houses. They were like, I don't want to sell my house at 2% or 3% interest and buy at 6 and da da da. So I think the flood of everybody that probably would have listed their house over the last couple of years is come to fruition. And inventory is popping right now. So getting in front of your sellers and getting those houses listed, it should be much easier today than it was a year ago. And two, there's certainly a skill set conversation here around pricing appropriately and staging correctly in your marketing and getting the houses that are sellable. But just general statement, inventory is climbing. You're going to see a percentage number in one of the articles, but inventory is certainly up. 152 said yes to a house in the last 7 days in Fulton County. If you just look at these numbers, that's a big number in the last 7 days. So big news. 278 are pending, 250 closed out. We've been over 250 every single week in the month of March in Fulton County. You can see it's not always that way. So, man, it's moving. So, my whole comment about the lull in the market certainly doesn't show up in this number, but that's more of a feeling I've heard from agents. Um, DeKalb County, 619 new active listings. We had 640s last 2 weeks, but 619 is still a big number. It's over 600 every week almost this month. And then 105, which last 3 weeks, more than 100 have gone under contract, which are big numbers for DeKalb County. 178 pendings and 138 closed out. So I don't love the 138. Obviously, this is the last week of the month, so we expect a lot of closings. But 138 is still a strong number, but look at the numbers before 154, 167, 148. So maybe I could say there was a little lull in DeKalb. I don't know. Cobb County, 553 active new listings in the last 7 days. 548, 569, 530. Huge numbers every week over 500 and it probably averages over 550 new listings coming on the market in Cobb County right now. Big numbers. 107 went under contract. The last same story. Last 3 weeks, over 100 properties are going under contract every week in Cobb County. 173 are pending, with 126 closed out. Same comment. A little low for the closings, which might speak to that feeling of lull. But prior to that, 194, 151, 162. Maybe there's going to be a big pop at the end of the month this week. What do you think?
Listen, I think if you're relying on the usual, I can get you listed fast, I can sell it quick. You are not being the expert out there, y'all. You should be setting expectations with your clients based off these charts. Literally, find a way to have your meetings where you can pull this up and just go through it the way Brett does. You've got months and months and tons of these videos to kind of learn how he does it, but this is how we should be talking to our clients. Stay the expert. You will win out.
Yeah, in pursuit of becoming a local economist of choice, you've got to pay attention to details that are also in Chartmaster Chuck stuff. You need to know average days on market, sales to list price ratios, absorption rates. These are conversations that enhance your capacity to consult effectively and to win business in incredible ways. So make sure you're factoring, because as you start to, you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, to Manny's point. Oh, I can do everything. You may not be able to do everything, and the market's evolving, and you have to, although we don't have a crystal ball, we have data that supports the trend, but you've got to be able to cite with accuracy. And then it becomes a local service, a local market conversation as well, street to street.
Love it. All right. Kind of big news. 6.7 on the interest rate. I don't know if you guys track it as much as we do, but if you're on this call every week, man, it wasn't a couple weeks ago, it was over 7. And to be under 6 3/4 is pretty awesome. My suspicion is good credit. get you under 6.5. I wouldn't be surprised if some people are locking loans right now under 6.5 or 6.5. But what's interesting to me is that the 15-year is at 6.13, the FHA is at 6.15, and VA is at 6.17. I would go out on a limb and say good credit. Some people are getting fives, and we haven't said that in a long time.
Our
On
adjustable
15
rate
year
mortgage is
FH,
quick question, or just from anybody in the audience who does a lot of deals, like are adjustable rate mortgages coming back on any level, or is the margin so narrow that people are still biting on 30-year fixed?
30-year. People aren't
30
really
year.
doing the
arms.
arms
Yeah, I'm
because of the
surprised they've
rate.
not made a comeback.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can see if it's 6.3, the gap's what, 0.5, not a big one.
Hmm.
Okay, just curious. Because most
Anyway,
people don't stay in their homes more than 7 or 8 years. And if your client base is young, I'm just thinking creatively, how can you promote, a smart economic play?
100%. All the power in having a good lender that can consult, right?
That's it. It's
Yeah.
massively helpful.
Um, Look, what I feel most encouraged by is this is probably the lowest I've seen it in weeks, if not a couple months. And as I said at the beginning of the call, this is the start of that time of year between now and the late summer when the biggest percentage of real estate sells. So if we're starting that period of time with that rate, I'm encouraged by that. I think this is good for our spring market for sure. Um, but anyway, there's an article on Inman that says it's good shopping conditions for buyers this spring. And what it says is a lot of inventory, so a lot of active listings, which we've talked about. Inflation and mortgage rates would spell out a recipe for choice words, pretty good shopping conditions for buyers. Here's what I take from that is, man, it sucked to be a buyer the last couple years. You were paying premiums, you were fighting multiple offers. I think it is pretty good shopping conditions to be a buyer out there. I'm not saying there's not outlier properties where you're competing and that kind of thing, but from a general statement, it's a pretty good time to buy a house. And this article could turn into a talking point you did from a marketing perspective out there on social media, right? But nonetheless, here's what they're saying you need to know. And these are the quote, if you're quoting things, this is what I would quote. 28% more active listings at the end of February than the year before. That's a big number of more properties to look at. The other number you can quote is 2.8 is what the inflation's coming in at. And while I'm a little nervous about it, inflation going up a little bit, right now it's under control. And then they're quoting 6.75 on that 30-year fix. You saw what we put up today. It was 6.72. Um, but man, those are really good, just key numbers to start this period of time from March to late July, August, right? What do you think?
I think those last two numbers you mentioned, just for all of y'all that do social media, all of that. Oh, that's so happy balloons here. For all of y'all that do that, some exciting stuff would be getting with your partner. Get your trusted partner to speak with you on that, so it's not as scary. The big thing I took away from this too is y'all leverage the inventory growth. Like we've seen more listings than we have in a while. I think they mentioned something in here about 2000 and 2001 or 2000, something like that. I mean, you got to leverage that. The increased inventory will give you more options for your clients. Just stay on top of it. Again, you gotta be the expert. You gotta look at these photos, look at the data.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So before I pop this next article up, You heard me make mention that the consumer gets affected by what the media talks about. So the media is certainly hot and heavy, talking about tariffs, talking about immigration, and a lot of the political topics of today, which does get into the consumer mindset. However, this next article is reporting on what the Home Builders Association is talking about. So the Home Builders Association is saying if and when the tariffs come into effect, the net cost is about $9,200 per home. And so what's interesting is I trying to think through this. I don't think 90 if you're buying a 4,000 45 $450,000 house, that's about 2% of the price, right? And if I was buying a new construction for 450,000 or 500,000, I think right now the climate new construction, I could negotiate probably 5% off the ask price. And if I had to give back 2% in cost, I'm still negotiating off 3%. I don't know. I think the builders have a lot of margin in these houses to absorb this, but 9,200 on one hand seems like a lot of money, and on the other hand, in the grand scheme of total purchase price, it's probably not that big of an effect. But I think the media has made it out to be a huge number, right? And in terms of us just consulting people to real estate, you're probably out there if you're working with buyers now, getting asked the question, what are the tariffs doing, right? I'm assuming you're getting asked this question by buyers in the marketplace because it's on their mind. This just is what the Home Builders Association is quoting. What are your thoughts?
It will have an effect. And the question is who pays for it, and is it a blended, expensive cost of doing business? I think if I had a buyer right now, I'd say, hey, here's the bottom line. Houses in inventory today haven't been affected by that. Let's take advantage of that margin and have a stronger negotiated position.
Yeah, and I think our agents are strong enough to net this out in negotiation anyway.
For sure. But I'm saying it's a great narrative for moving now might be to your advantage versus waiting and seeing.
I think it's important to stay again the expert and in front of this because in a real life situation, I'll change it from just real estate. I'm actually dealing with a car update that will require parts personally, and I saw the quote and it was astronomical even for a dealership. So I went and talked to the owner, and he said in the auto world, he's already seen people front load and stock up on some of these parts, right? Because of the tariffs that haven't even been implemented, just the chat. So change it to our world and it's materials for homes. It's happening, y'all. So stay ahead of it, talk about it. That way, when it does happen and these prices go up and we gotta, we're not out here saying slogans. You're saying I was ahead of this. We already knew this, and that's why we're prepared.
Yeah, I mean, and my suspicion is anybody buying new construction today, the the product was built on pre-tariff costs. I
Mhm.
think you won't see the net effect of this until new construction end of year or next year. Um,
Yep.
but I just want to give you the data because my suspicion is probably pretty accurate in that you're being asked these questions out there by the consumer,
Or you will be.
or you will be. Yeah. All right. The Fed met a week ago and they did nothing. And outside of meeting and good conversations. So I'm trying to decide what I take from that decision. So they didn't change the prime rate. And they're calling it amid the Trump's tariff chaos, however you take that, good or bad. But um, I think the Fed is betting on this economy. If they did nothing, they're saying, I think we're stable or we have early indicators that the economy is going to be fine for the next couple months. What do y'all think?
I agree. I don't see it. It just tells me they're playing a wait and see game.
Yeah. I mean,
No.
their Wednesday decision shows that central bankers are waiting for evidence that inflation is headed towards their 2% target, or that the economy is weakening more than expected. Those are two outcomes that would put prime rate cuts back on the table. But I don't think they think the economy is weakening. If you judge the economy by how many Amazon boxes show up at my house, it's really strong these days. But outside of that, I don't know about y'all's house, but everything. So anyway, it's no news, but I'm trying to decipher that. I actually think the Fed believes going into this next season of economics that they're in a wait and see period, and they kind of believe we're stable, maybe.
Yeah, I think, listen, we are in an environment of uncertainty right now. And the more you educate your clients on all this stuff, right? It's education, education, education. You will, position yourself as the truest advisor.
Yeah.
And it's a very shifting. I mean, we are dealing with tomorrow. This conversation could be very different, right? And we saw an industry update, what, 2, 3 weeks ago, where y'all pivoted with an article that came out literally minutes before. And that's the environment we're in. That's why we're seeing the ones that can't hang, they're getting out of the industry, and y'all are sticking in it.
Yeah, I know it drives Mark Jones crazy, but I don't pull the articles till Sunday night because for that very reason. Like I feel like I'll miss something if I pull them ahead of time. Uh, anyway, all right. So this is interesting. So clear cooperation, if you're not familiar, this is a term specific to our industry. And what clear cooperation was if you're a realtor member, a member of NAR, you subscribe to participating in their policy of clear cooperation. Originally, clear cooperation said if you listed a property, you would put it into the MLS and allow any other realtor member to participate in selling that property, and you would share a buyer's agent commission. You know based on the NAR settlement that buyer's agent commission got slashed from clear cooperation. However, what was not slashed was if you're a realtor member, you're going and list a property, you will advertise that property, i.e., put it in the MLS for any other realtor member to see and sell that real estate. It's interesting in Atlanta because our MLS is not owned by the Board of Realtors. Yet, in the brokerage circle, the clear cooperation is 100% under attack, which is being led primarily by Robert Refkin of Compass. And they want to have this private listing network environment, which means I can list property, but not specifically put it in the MLS right away. Um, so what's funny about this article is they've been twisting the words of the Department of Justice in their arguments against getting rid of clear cooperation. And the Department of Justice came out and made a statement. And the statement they said was, of note, industry participants may have made public statements about the division's purported position on clear cooperation policies that are misleading and out of context. The division has not taken a position that such policies standing alone, i.e., without the mandated MLS publication of offers of compensation or acceptance benefiting primarily large brokers, are anti competitive. So they haven't made a stance on whether they believe clear cooperation is anti-competitive. And but in our marketplace, there are competitors of ours that participate in private listing networks. Is it legal? Is it not legal? We're not into interpretation right now, but it's certainly a hot topic in the industry. And just know we are very in tune with it and paying close attention to private listing networks. And we're actually looking at a a technology solution just to be prepared. Um, and but it's a hot topic out there in the marketplace. So I thought it was interesting that the Department of Justice made this statement. And it's just something to be aware of in our industry right now. Uh, Rick, Manny, thoughts, comments?
I just think in terms of operating with high level integrity, you always do what's best for your client. And what's best for my client historically has always been to promote their listing or opportunity to as many people as possible. The bigger the buying pool, the greater the opportunity for multiple offers, competing offers, and exposure to that perfect client to buy their home or perfect customer. So that's where my heart lands, and we'll let the legal system do what it does and dance around that reality. But if you operate with integrity, the odds are good that things land where they're supposed to.
Yep. And that's certainly
Manny's on mute.
My
a
bad.
Manny,
great point of view.
Yeah.
I will admit there are people that have an opposing point of view to that, that think it is still legal and all the above. So,
yeah, I'm
um,
speaking of ethical and integrity more than legal, but that's the point.
yeah.
Let the lawmakers decide what's legal. If you operate with integrity, the odds go your, I think, favor you.
I was gonna say I love that perspective on it. As team leader with agents that I see moving, I say stay tuned in. We will keep you updated, but don't let it bog you down as of now, especially as we're in that prime money making season. Keep doing what you do it with integrity, and let's keep it moving for now. We will keep an eye on it.
All right. Last article. Billion-dollar mergers. The upheaval in the real estate reckoning. So what's happening in real estate land 101 is there is consolidation going on. And consolidation usually happens after a period of innovation. And uh, I'll break this down for you. What's interesting is we're one of those consolidation mentions. So it talks about the big deals reshaping real estate. So Keller Williams and private equity power. It says Keller Williams, one of the largest franchise operations in the world, is welcoming private equity investment from Stone Point Capital. This signals something much bigger than a simple cash infusion. Private equity isn't here to sit on the sidelines. It's here to scale, innovate, and drive efficiencies. That means better technology, more sophisticated operations, and a new level of competitiveness that will put pressure on everyone else in the game. I love that description of Stone Point investing in Keller Williams. And will it change the face of real estate? I don't think you're going to feel a change in the short term, but I absolutely think the big companies are starting to position for the future. And the second one of this is Rocket Companies, which is Rocket Homes and Rocket Mortgage, acquired Redfin for almost $2 billion. And I was asking myself, what does this mean? Well, if I took the mortgage world and what percentage of the consumer will go to a lending tree or a Rocket Mortgage and actually get a loan product through an online experience? I think the percentage of consumers that would do that is probably 10%, maybe even a little bit less. I think the consumer still wants the relationship. Now, I believe Redfin is uh, the real estate experience of that, meaning it is their goal is to have a technology experience for the consumer to buy and sell real estate. So obviously, it makes sense that Rocket is acquiring Redfin, and but I don't see a chunk of the consumers shifting to this. I still think it's going to be 10% of the consumers. Even if it went to 20%, it's still not the bulk of the consumers. The bulk of the consumers, I believe, primarily care about a trusted relationship with a real estate professional to help them buy and sell real estate. But it's certainly a $1 billion merger of mention. And then the third one, which is kind of funny, is somebody leaked that Compass was trying to buy Berkshire Hathaway. Is that true? There's always some truth behind it somewhere. Um, Berkshire Hathaway absolutely denies it. But it's still kind of a storyline out there of big consolidation. So what they're talking about is it's a super cycle of divergence. I'd use the word consolidation. This same consolidation trends happening at the micro level. Teams and mega agents are growing at a rapid pace, uh, absorbing the business from agents who can't keep up. The top producers in every market are widening the gap between themselves. Um, but this article says who wins and who loses. So they're saying consumers win in this big consolidation. So if done right, consolidation could bring a more seamless, efficient experience for buyers and sellers. From Keller Williams tech enhancements to Rocket Redfin's integration, consumers might finally see more transparent and frictionless transaction they've been demanding. These moves will force the rest of the industry to up their game to compete. I agree with that. Top agents and teams, the best in the business, will continue to get stronger. Those who operate like businesses, our whole value proposition is teach people to be business professionals rather than hobbies, will continue to absorb market share. Who's going to lose in this? Probably the small traditional brokers. You know, the ones that aren't going to be able to play in the landscape with the big money players as innovation takes over. And then, of course, agents who refuse to evolve. So the industry is no longer tolerating mediocrity. We've been talking as a leadership team of the year of the professional, how professionalism is a thing. Um, that's been going on for a couple years now, and you know, I just think like AI for one. It, AI, you don't need AI today, but you certainly are going to need AI tomorrow, and AI is moving very, very fast. And just side joke, I was preparing for Mojo Monday with Rick this morning, and I went to Chat GPT to get some talking points, and and Rick said, "Well, I've got my Chat GP my notes." And I said, "Well, I don't know. You're wrong, and I'm right, or it doesn't matter. It's just how are we integrating AI into our daily lives? The agents that refuse to evolve. I'm not saying you're in trouble today, but I think you could get in trouble tomorrow, if that makes sense. Any thoughts?
Absolutely. I mean, listen, mine is kind of simple. Embrace change, y'all. The industry is evolving, but you got to live the KW way. This is why we're with KW. Focus on treating your real estate like a business. That's what it's about. Your clients are gonna, aka the consumer, will drive the demand for, more efficient and transparent transactions and all of that. But if you're focused on delivering the good service, like Rick said, and showing your value, you will get your unfair share.
There you go.
Yeah,
Happy Monday, everybody. Oh,
control the
sorry.
controllables. That's all I was going to finish with. Control the controllables, mitigate stress. Anything you can't control, dismiss, let it go, and lean into the things you can because it's still a people puzzle. Connect with more people in meaningful ways and then let the narrative, evolve with changing times.
There you
Appreciate
go.
you guys. Thanks to Manny and Brett. You guys bring some amazing content. Such a
There you
gift.
go.
Thank you
Rock
guys.
and roll.
Appreciate y'all. Have a good one.